process of filing your taxes is a bizarre wonderland where nothing seems to quite make sense, and even though you came into the process full-sized, soon you start feeling smaller and smaller and smaller. This video will not attempt to cover every type of tax form, that would be, to use a technical governmental term, bananas, but rather the ones that most people will use. Tax filing requirements are different when you are employed by a company as an employee than they are when you are employed by your own business, which is also known as being a freelancer or a sole proprietor. This video we will focus on the filing requirements as an employee. In next week's video, we will give you the key information on being self-employed. This video will be divided into 4 parts. 1. How to prepare your tax return. 2. How to prepare your tax return. 3. How to prepare your tax return. And 4. In summation. So to fully explain how employees pay taxes, let's do as Wonderlanders do and begin at the beginning. Part 1. How to prepare your tax return. Now to really understand how employee taxes work, we have to jump in the TARDIS and go back in time, because you may not realize you've been paying taxes all year long. Before you start employment, your employer will require you to fill out a federal and state W-4. The W-4 will ask you things like your marital status and how many exemptions you would like to claim. What's an exemption? Definition time. Exemptions are things that lessen your tax burden and pertain primarily to personal and dependency statuses. The IRS has a great W-4 worksheet on their website, but for our purposes, I can safely tell you that the fewer exemptions you claim, the more money will be taken out of your paycheck. So anyway, the W-4 will be used by your employer to determine how much state and federal income tax to withhold from your paycheck throughout the year. Basically, they're trying to predict how much you owe and to have you pay it throughout the year rather than at one time. Now, you may find out eventually that you have paid too much throughout the year, in which case you will receive a tax refund. And definition time, a tax refund is a reimbursement on taxes when the tax burden is actually less than the taxes paid. In other words, dude, you gave me too much, here it is. Save it. What I'm trying to say is that the W-4 is a super dupes important form, and it can prevent, if properly completed, a very nasty surprise at the end of the year. Okay, a couple quick notes before we move on. 1, your life circumstances may change year to year, so you should definitely at least review your W-4 at the beginning of every year. And 2, although there are circumstances when it's actually kind of a smart thing to tweak your W-4 so that they actually take more than you would technically owe on your income throughout the year. Some people have the government take out more than they're actually owed simply because they want to treat their refund as a kind of savings account. We have thoughts on this though, because there are actually a lot more effective ways to have your money work for you than to give the government an interest-free loan throughout the year. But anyway, part 2, how to prepare your taxes. Okay, so a year has ended. You can see April 15th approaching with your prophecy powers, Professor Trelawney. So to prepare your tax return, you're gonna need a few things. 1, your W-2. Your employer is required by law to send you what is called a W-2, postmarked by January 31st. The W-2 is sent to you and also to the IRS, and it gives you all the important information to complete your tax return. Definition time. A tax return is a form on which a taxpayer makes a statement annually on personal circumstances and income, and it is used by tax authorities to assess the tax liability of said taxpayer. Basically, you owe us this much money. Possibly required equipment. Number 2, other information forms. In addition to your W-2, you may have other income information forms. These may include a 1099 INT, which is for interest income, a Form 1099 DIV, which is for stock dividends, 1099-G, which is for state income tax returns and also for unemployment benefits, and perhaps a 1098-T if you have any education expenses. Don't get freaked out by all the numbers and the letters, it will be okay, I promise. We'll get to that in just a second. Possibly required equipment. Number 3, a Schedule A. If you itemize your deductions, you should prepare this information on what is called a Schedule A. And now, at long last, we are on part 3 of this video, how to prepare your tax return. With e-filing as the predominant form of filing, you will most likely use some kind of online avenue or downloaded software to prepare and pay your taxes. TurboTax is the most popular, and IRS.gov supplies free software for anyone with income up to $58,000 a year. Whether you prepare your return manually or with software, IRS.gov is actually a really wonderful resource. One of the great things about using software is that it will prepare your state and federal taxes at the same time, which saves a lot of legwork, let me tell you.
Oh boy!
Okay, so finally, this is what you've been waiting for. Here is how to prepare your tax return. Step 1, choose the correct form. All the available forms will be 1040s of some kind. The 1040EZ, which is pretty much what you think it is, the 1040A, which is also known as the short form, and the regular 1040, which is also known as the long form. When you input your personal information, W-2 information, and any other return information you might have, the tax software will tell you exactly what form is appropriate for you. Step 2, if appropriate, put in the information for a Schedule A. Step 3, pay those taxes by April 15th. You will either be given the amount by your preparer or by your tax software. If you can't possibly file by April 15th, you should fill out a Form 4868 and get an automatic 6-month extension. Please know though that this is only an extension to file your return, not to pay your taxes. So if you think that you owe something, then you have to include that with the extension. Most tax software for most people is going to be sufficient. It's gonna help you go through every step in a pretty self-explanatory way. But if you would rather not prepare your own return, you would be best served to use a licensed professional. These people may be certified public accountants, they're also known as CPAs, or they might be enrolled agents who are people who are licensed to practice by the IRS. If you go to the website for the National Association of Enrolled Agents, you'll be able to find the contact information for any enrolled agents who might be in your area. Both of these kinds of professionals can represent you in front of the IRS or in front of state income tax departments if your return is selected for a review or an audit. Definition time: an audit is... Oh no! Although we don't endorse any specific business, you may also choose a preparer from one of the national chains. These include places like H&R Block or the one where the Statue of Liberty dances in front of Arby's. Now you may be in a situation where your great Uncle Bobo offers to do your taxes for you, but I would give that second thoughts. And third thoughts. Part 4. In conclusion, in review, here in the most rudimentary sense is what you should do. Fill out your W-4 correctly, being sure to update it every year. Gather all income information forms, including your W-2 and any kinds of 1099s that might also apply to you. Collect information on your expenses. Ideally, you should do this throughout the year in a software such as Quicken, but if you can't, you should get all the documentation that you can, such as bank account statements, screenshots, etc. File your return either by using a pencil and paper, which I think they still make, software, or a tax preparer, and send in your payment by April 15th, and that is it! Ho ho ho! We'll see you next week for more adventures in Wonderland.